All right, the light's on, we're good? All right. Very good. I'm Michael Edwards. I'm an investigator with the Richland County Sheriff's Department. I've been there for about 6 years now, with most of that time working in investigations. Primarily I work financial crimes, cyber crimes, fraud, internet-based things, that sort of thing. But I've gotten a lot of exposure to just about any type of crime that you can think of. Before I get into what I've got prepared, I've been sitting there in the back listening all morning, and there's been some good stuff that I just want to touch on that Ms. Sherry and Miss Graham brought up. I know it's easy to sit in the crowd and you hear one person say something and they don't know what they're talking about. That's just somebody saying that, but I can back up some of the stuff that they're talking about. Ms. Sherry is talking about public speaking and about how you're going to come up and people are nervous to do it, and that you don't feel that confidence till you get up here. It's true. Just like she said, I woke up this morning nervous about standing up here, drove all the way up here, nervous about standing here, sat in the back, nervous about standing here. But when you find something that you're passionate about and something people are interested in hearing from you, it's no issue to stand here and give a presentation, that sort of thing. Especially if you have notes like I do. And if you stand there in the mirror and give your speech 100 times, that can go a long way. But one thing that she mentioned is, that you gotta just work through the fear. And I like reading a lot, and something I read one time is that it's better to do it than to live in the fear of it. And that's something I like to live with, because I work in law enforcement. There's a lot of scary things I gotta do every day, and the best thing I can do is just go forward and tackle it. It's better to just do something, get it over with, than to stand there and be afraid of it. Something that Ms. Graham said that stuck with me, actually, in working at the Sheriff's Department, I actually have had the opportunity to meet her, and I met Sanaa many years ago. And it is just so sad to see a lot of the young people that start going down the wrong path or start getting led down the wrong path. And something that we try to do in law enforcement is impress upon these young people that you really don't know what the worst thing that can happen with what you're doing. You really don't understand it. And we try to say, look, we're not your parents, we're not here every day, we're telling you from experience that something really bad can happen with what you're saying. And with Sanaa specifically, I remember when she went missing, and that came out in the news, and just each day that went by, we were all just terrified for her, because every single day that went by was a day where we're like, she's not coming back. Something horrible has happened, and unfortunately, it's not what anybody wanted. But as Ms. Graham already said, that is the way it worked out for her. And I like coming to these things and trying to spread a little bit of knowledge and hope that doesn't happen to anybody else. So one final thing on what she said is that talking about people leading you astray and not being able to trust some of these people that you're friends with. From what I've seen in violent crimes, even if the people don't end up dead, just if some violent crime was done to them, the overwhelming majority of the time, if someone's a victim of violent crime, it's someone they knew that did it to them. The overwhelming majority of the time. That's why we're able to solve murders so quickly, is because very often murders are done by someone known to the victim. Not just with young people, but as you get older, people 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, oftentimes if they're a victim of violent crime, it's someone they knew that did it to them. But moving forward with what I already had prepared, that was just some stuff I wanted to touch on from what I'd heard this morning. But where I'd like to get started is with safety with cell phones or other electronic devices, but I know everyone's got a cell phone. Everyone loves using them all the time. So I'll kind of get started there. So one thing to really be cautious about, I know that when you're younger, especially high school age, like it's all about meeting new people and exploring the world and all that sort of thing, and it's never been easier than it is now with technology, where it's not just, the people who live near you or the people you're in class with. You can meet anybody anywhere in the world just by, sending them a message through a cell phone or a computer, through whatever app you prefer on the internet. So one thing that I'll caution you with, I made a little list of things that I have personally seen and experienced through this line of work. that can really wreak havoc for younger people. So the first thing that came to mind for me is actually not dealing with random people on the internet, but dealing with people that you know, that you may go to school with or that you otherwise are friends with. And this is something that, parents, close your ears because this doesn't happen. But, when you're, younger and in high school, it, happens very frequently where young people will share private photos of themselves with other people they go to school with. It's something that I cannot caution you against enough, just in that once you put something out there, you can't take it back. You can delete something off your phone. You may think, I sent it with Snapchat, it's gone. If you put something out there, you cannot take it back. If you're putting something out in the world, you can just expect it to stay there forever. And I've seen time and time again, especially with private photos that are sent out, you think you send it to someone you can trust, and then before you know it, your whole school has seen it. And it is absolutely devastating for younger people, high school, middle school age, to have that happen. It's something where we can try to deal with things on the back end, but we can't take the picture back. Once you send it out, it can spread like wildfire, and there is nothing we can do to try to collect up thousands and thousands of copies of a photo. So just when you put something out there, just know it's going to stay out there. Don't send something expecting it's going to disappear. Don't say, well, I'm on Instagram and it's in vanish mode, so it's, no one can save it. If you put something out there, it can stay out there. I would expect it to stay out there. So with that, even something that you save, you have like, say, just a picture that you have on your phone, in your camera roll, just because you hit delete, it's not gone. You can't see it anymore. But if you have an iPhone, now you can recover pictures for 30 days. And even after that 30 days, with some of the tools that we have available for investigation, hitting delete on something does not mean it's gone. We can come back in after the fact and things are still there. So even on your own device where you think you've deleted it, even there it's not necessarily gone. Let's see. Something I also want to touch on is just private information in general. Sharing, your name, where you're living, your date of birth, social security number, anything private like that. But even just something as simple as just, this is who I am and this is the school I go to and I live on this street in this neighborhood. Be really careful about who you're sharing that with. So of course you have friends in school, it's not an issue to tell them who you are. Don't stranger danger everybody in your life. But for things like posting on social media, just be aware that you put something on the internet like that, even if you think you have a private profile, it's not always as private as you think it is. So for sharing things on the internet or sharing things on social media, just be really cautious about putting any of your personal information out there, because again, once you put it out there, it is really hard to take it back. And you may be doing something with good intentions, but there's a lot of malicious people out there who could use the information against you. So be really careful about putting out, your identity information and where you live, any sort of thing like that, putting that out on the internet. So again, you put it out there, you can't take it back. Even if you delete a post, you can't take it back. Once it's out there, it's out there. Something else that I've seen that hasn't just affected younger people, I've seen it with people of all ages, but I see it a little bit more commonly with younger people, is just be cautious if someone you're not expecting to contact you and someone you don't know reaches out to you. And that's not to say someone who's at your school or something like that, or friend of a friend, but if you get a completely random message you're not expecting from someone you've never met, who's nowhere even near the area that you're in, be very cautious about that. So it's common to get those types of messages on platforms like Instagram or especially Snapchat to get those kind of things. And very oftentimes, those type of people, if you're a younger person they're reaching out to, they'll say, oh, hey, I'm also 16, or hey, I'm 17. I live in Atlanta. Let's be friends. Very often that person is not 16 or 17, and nothing that they're telling you is true. They just want to start a conversation with you for whatever benefit they see in it. So that can be, best case, it's some sort of a scam or financial crime, where I've seen it with people of all ages, where it's someone who expresses some sort of attraction to you or some sort of romance with you and says, we're kind of long distance, like let's swap photos, I'll go first. And they'll send you something that they found on the internet that's not of them and send it to you. And then, as a part of the scam, when you send something back, they'll say, okay, I've got this now. I'm going to share it with everyone that you know, everyone in your family, unless you send me $500 or something like that. I've seen it quite a bit. I will say that oftentimes with those people, if you ignore them, it goes away. However, I have seen it where if you ignore them, they will in fact make good on their promise. So be very careful about people you're not expecting to talk to and people you do not know who are reaching out to you. Very frequently nowadays, unfortunately, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, in the earlier stages of the internet, it was a little bit different. It was a little bit more innocent. You could get in something like a chat room and talk to someone and they would be straight up about who they are and what they were doing, and you could just be friends with them. But nowadays, it seems all unsolicited contact over the internet is for a nefarious purpose. It just never seems to be something legitimate anymore. And the best case with that is that it's someone who wants your money. But what we've seen with younger people before, sometimes with older people, but a lot of times with younger people, is that there will be people who specifically target younger people, portray themselves as someone younger when they're not, and what their ultimate goal is to do is to take you away from your family, to kind of groom you into someone that they can control. You now are going to live with them, and they don't want you for your money, but they might want you for your body or for other people to use you. And it's something, again, that we've actually seen here. It does happen. It's not just something to say to be scary. It really does happen. So just be very, very cautious about people who reach out to you that you don't know and you're not expecting to talk to, especially if they're portraying themselves as also someone young, and just say, oh, well, maybe I got the wrong number, or maybe, wrong username or mistyped it or something, but, we're all here, so now we can be friends. Just be very, very cautious about responding to those people. Something I will say is that in working with, younger people, high school age, middle school age, I know a lot of younger people do not want to tell their parents a lot of things. Totally get that. But just be aware of what's going on. Be aware of when people reach out to you like this. It's not necessarily something that you have to go tell your parents, or you have to tell law enforcement or something, but just be cautious of the world and be aware of what could happen by entertaining this. But I will say that if you're getting into a situation where people are saying, give me money, or I will do something undesirable to you, or you have people that you've never met before in real life that are asking you to meet them at a physical location, you need to tell your parents, you need to tell law enforcement. That needs to be reported. And if you just have someone message you and you want to ignore it, I get it. You don't have to tell your parents everything. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you have to tell your parents everything. But if there is something truly bad going on, you need to tell someone, even if it's a little bit uncomfortable. If not for you, then because if you ignore it, then they're going to try it with somebody else, and eventually it might work. So please, if there is something actually bad going on, please report it to somebody. Moving on a little bit, I'm also going to cover a little bit about financial crimes in general, which I think maybe some of the parents or older individuals here could appreciate. And then also good to be aware of, if you are in high school, maybe you get your first job or something, start getting some money, you want to keep it. You don't want it to be something where it gets stolen out from you. So things that I've seen a lot, again, just making a few notes, is a big thing now is emails, texts, phone calls that are all from people who want to scam you out of your money. So, a lot of times we see all the time, you get a text message that say, we tried to deliver your package today, we couldn't deliver it. Just click on this link and we'll help you. Well, I've talked to people who have clicked on the link and they were unfortunately separated from their money. Again, if you're not expecting communication, be suspicious. A lot of times people are going to reach out to separate you from your money. They're going to reach out with some sort of urgent message. They want you to act before you could have any time to think about it. So you'll get a phone call and they'll say, hey, I'm from the fraud department with your bank. There was a breach on your account. There's, this transaction for, $1,700.28. Was that you? And you're like, no, that wasn't me. And they're like, okay, well, good news. If we start doing this, we'll get you taken care of. And they're going to lead you down a path where you're going to have to end up paying them for something or giving them access to something, and they're going to take your money from you. But it's something where if you're not suspicious of it and you're not thinking about it critically at the time, they're trying to scare you into acting before you have time to think. Where most people then say after the fact, they're like, man, if I had looked at my bank account, I would have seen that didn't happen. There was no transaction there. Same thing happens with email. You'll get an email that looks like it's from your bank. You're supposed to click on the link and then sign in. It looks like it's your bank's website, but when you sign in with that username and password, it's not your bank's website, but now someone has the username and password to your online banking and will swiftly drain all the money out of your account. So again, just be really cautious about getting contact, unsolicited, even if it's from a place that you do business with. So if someone calls you from the bank and says, hey, there was fraud on your account, then it's okay to tell them, hey, just for my security, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call the phone number I know is for the bank. Or some people even prefer, drive down to the bank. You go there in person and figure it out for yourself. But there is no shame in politely telling these people, okay, thank you for letting me know. I'll call back and I'll handle it, and call a known trusted number for your bank. So you can oftentimes find that on the back of your debit or credit card. Or if you prefer, again, you could just drive to a physical location yourself if there's one near you and you can talk to them there. Same thing with the emails. If you get an email that's looking like it's from a bank, don't click on any links in the email. Just go to the website is the bank's website, or go to the branch, if you prefer that, and check on something there. That's something I do, even if I know it's a legitimate email from the bank. I never click on anything in those emails, even if it's something legitimate. Let's see. Also something with that, when these people call you or are doing text messages with you, it's not uncommon for them to say, I'm going to send a code to your phone, just tell me what the code is. If you read that whole text message along with the 6 numbers, it'll often say, we will never ask you for this code, do not give it to anybody. They will never ask you for the code, and do not give it to anybody. If they're saying they sent a code to your phone and one appears, that's because they're doing something like trying to log into your account or trying to reset your password, and they need that code to do it. So if you don't give it to them, they can't get in. So it is true in 100% of scenarios. If that text message says, we will never ask you for this, it's true. They will not ask you for it. And I've seen, again, time and time again, where after the fact, I'm looking through someone's phone and they say, yeah, they said they were going to send me this code and I told it to them. And it's one of those where right after the code it says, we will never ask you for this. So again, just be very cautious when people are reaching out, people are asking you for information, or especially if your bank calls you and you have to verify your social security number with them or verify your name and date of birth with them. Just be very cautious if they reached out to you and are asking you questions. If a bank actually reaches out to you from their fraud department, they're not going to ask you to validate your identity. They contacted you. And again, if you're feeling uncertain about it at all, politely tell them you're going to hang up and call a good phone number for your bank. So with that, I will add on, I keep saying call a good phone number, call a phone number you trust. With that, be very careful with doing an internet search for customer support information. So if you say, I want the phone number for Amazon because they shipped me something and it was messed up, be very, very cautious doing that. It has happened multiple times. I've actually seen some of it personally here in Richland County where someone Googled customer support information and the first result that popped up, that Google recommends was a scam phone number. So you call them and it is someone who acts like they are support for that company, and then they find a way to get money from you. So be very careful doing an internet search for customer support. I will say that if you are on their website, if you're at Amazon.com and you know it's them, just use their website to navigate to support, to either send them a message or call them or something like that. Use the information available on their website. Be very careful Googling information for large companies, as they're often targets for these types of scams. So if you're looking up customer support for Microsoft or Apple or things like that, it's not uncommon that the first few results are fictitious and are designed for you to contact a scammer where they never even have to work. You just call them and they never have to find you. I've also seen it where pop-ups appear on computers. Somehow, either a computer got infected or it's just a web page that has like some malicious pop-up in it where a pop-up appears. One I've seen a lot recently is a pop-up that says, hey, this is Microsoft. Something's gone horribly wrong with your computer. Please call us and they provide the phone number. 100% of those that I've seen have been scams where people have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars to the scammers. Again, I'll impress upon you, if you're calling someone for customer support, it often does not cost money for them to help you. And if they're directing you to buy, large quantities of gift cards or cryptocurrency, you've gone to the wrong customer support. That is not something that they will be asking from you. And then one more thing with internet searches is that it shouldn't be so much of an issue with searching, but just be very careful about looking at what websites you're actually visiting to make sure that the domain name of that website is what you expect it to be. So if you're going to Amazon.com, and you might click on a link that looks like it says Amazon, but actually one of the M's is an R and an N. So it looks like it's the right thing, but it's going to be a fictitious website. So be very careful with that as well, just making sure that the websites you're going to do in fact contain the letters that you expect them to contain, because there are very good duplicate websites. I'm just saying Amazon because I know it's a company everyone uses. I've not seen a fake Amazon website. But it is a thing where fake websites can be created that replicate a website that you're familiar with the intention of stealing your personal information or login information so they can gain access to your real account on the real website. Also with that, same thing I touched on with emails before, where I have seen it where email addresses are faked, even coming from an individual where it looks like the email address you're used to. But again, there's a little bit of a change, either a spelling is slightly different or a character is swapped out for one that looks like it's the same character. And those emails, again, trying to get money from you. That's frequently seen in a business setting where you'll get an email from someone that looks like someone you're used to in the business that says, hey, we want to change our payment information or change our wire transfer information. You can make the next payment here instead of the usual channels. If something's like that's happening, get somebody on the phone. Before you hit send on a $400,000 wire transfer, make sure that you know who you're talking to. That's all that I've got prepared, but every time I do one of these, everyone wants to know something more than what I've got ready. So it looks like I've got maybe about 10 minutes, I think. So if you have any questions about either cybercrime, financial crime, anything to do with law enforcement, or anything, feel free to ask now. Go ahead. Right, and yeah, that's with the scam phone calls you're getting. If you're really talking to someone in a fraud department somewhere or someone who's trying to help you, they're not going to get upset when you ask them questions. I know for me, it's a lot of people don't like talking on the phone anymore, or are wary of getting phone calls, for all the reasons I mentioned. And for me, it can even be a little tricky especially trying to call people who've been victims of phone scams and calling them and saying, hey, I'm from the sheriff's department, tell me something. So it could be a little bit tricky, once someone's been victimized, by that, to kind of regain that trust. But yeah, if someone calls you and, is trying to treat you like, hey, something bad has happened to you and I'm here to help you, they're not going to get upset when you ask them questions. So again, that's where I'm saying, politely tell them, all right, well, I'm going to cut this off and I'll get with the bank and we can figure this out. No, so usually those text messages you're getting, they might be from a shorter phone number, like one of the 4 or 5 digit or 5 or 6 digit phone numbers. That's often where you're getting, like things like one-time passcodes from. And some of those scams you see, like, with packages being picked up, if you have an iPhone to look at them, some of them actually come from email addresses. So no, I think the ones that are saying scam likely, those I believe are coming from your phone carrier, or it's something that they're looking at and saying, okay, this is not a registered phone number, so just be wary of this. And by that I mean it's a voice over IP phone number. So again, something a lot of younger people like to do is use apps that let you use a different phone number than what your phone's actually assigned, or use if your phone doesn't have service, then get an app that even without a SIM card, it lets you over Wi-Fi make phone calls or text messages, something like that. And those will assign you a phone number that's purely an internet-based phone number. And those are something that could also trigger that scam likely designation, is that it's coming from essentially just an internet-generated phone number. Yeah, so I've seen a few articles on things like that, but here in Richland County, I've never experienced anything where someone's voice was recorded on a phone call. Not to say that it doesn't happen or can't happen, but a lot of people take just kind of the easier avenue of having you send them their money. But with that, I will say that the method that I employ is that if I'm not expecting a phone call and it's not someone saved in my contact list, I don't answer the phone. I can't remember who I was talking to now before we got started this morning, but my mom always said, if it's important, they'll leave a message. and that is how I've lived. And if it's something where I'm expecting a phone call, maybe I'll pick up for a random number, but like if someone called me right now, I'm supposed to be here. I'm not expecting anyone to call me. If they call me right now and I don't have that contact saved, I'm not answering that number and I'm not calling them back. If they leave me a message and I realize, oh, that's actually someone I was meaning to talk to, I'll talk to them. But a lot of the voicemails that I get on my phone, actually, I don't have any handy. I keep deleting them, but I keep getting a bunch that talk about how I have back taxes and how they can help me get them paid back. I don't have back taxes. But people like that, they'll scare you and say like, no, actually we've looked at your profile and you are behind on it and we can help you. And so then you get worried and scared and you jump into it. So the easiest way to avoid the whole thing, just don't answer the phone. If you're not expecting anyone to call and you don't know the number, don't answer it. But if you do, something that a lot of people will do is you can just answer the phone and not say anything. You don't have to say anything at all. For me, I've had it, like I said, I call a bunch of people out of the blue that aren't necessarily expecting me to call them from a number they don't necessarily expect me to call them from. And I have had people answer the phone and not say anything. And then I start talking first because I actually want to talk to them, and then we go from there. So if you do want to answer the phone, don't be afraid to just answer it and not say anything. And then if it's a real person, who really needs to talk to you, they'll probably say something. If it's someone who wanted to scam you, they'll just think the silence means that the line went dead or there's some issue with your voicemail message, and they'll just hang up. Yeah, don't be afraid to not answer the phone or to answer and just not say anything at all. Anything else? Oh gosh, now everyone's going all at once. I saw this hand first. Yeah, so not one that I've personally experienced, and the question was, if you couldn't hear it on the far side, was what's something on social media or otherwise that I've seen other than what's been discussed already that people can watch out for that might lure them in. I will say one thing that I've not personally seen but I know is a big issue is young people that want to get into some sort of creative art like modeling or filmmaking or that sort of thing to be very, very cautious. There are, predators are attracted to things like that where they can gain access to people. Especially gain access to people who are naive or are in more vulnerable positions or trying to get started in something. So something that, again, like I said, I've not personally seen it, but I know it is a big issue is, people soliciting you saying, hey, man, you just look so beautiful today. Would you let me take your pictures? I'm actually a professional photographer. You can come down to my studio and we can do a couple pictures. It's an easy way to get wrapped into something where maybe they're never going to let you leave again. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know there are some serial killers that actually have worked on that premise of luring people with photos, specifically people seeking to be models. Or maybe it is something where you are going to leave again, but while you're there, they're going to pressure you into doing things that you're not comfortable with, and for their own gratification or just to document so that they can distribute it on the internet. Does that kind of answer what you're going with? And then same thing with like filmmaking or anything like that. Especially getting into creative things, just be wary of people trying to take advantage of you. Good.
I just wanted to add
Sure.
to what you're saying. So for over 10 years, I've been a forensic interviewer. I'm not sure if you guys know what that is. He would know what it is. But that is someone who works with law enforcement and Department of Social Services. So anytime there's any type of allegations of abuse or neglect or anything like that, they send kids to children's advocacy centers, and it helps with the investigations. Multidisciplinary approach to investigations when it comes to children's crimes against children. So as a forensic interviewer, some of the things that I've listened to, that means I sit in the room. I'm trained to specifically talk to kids and listen to kids to get that story for them to help with investigations with law enforcement and DSS. Right? Follow me? So that means I hear a lot of different things right here in this area. All right? And so some of the biggest things that we get when we're sitting with teenagers and younger people when it comes to social media is they may have been talking to somebody that they thought they knew from like another school, right? You're the same age, you know this person, he goes to this school. You can't talk to him one-on-one because he goes to another school or she goes to another school. So you think you're having a conversation with the actual person, but you're having a conversation with somebody totally different that just took that person's picture, took that person's page, and made a clone page. You get what I'm saying? So you think you're talking to somebody else, but you're actually talking to maybe a wrong person or somebody that does not mean any good for you. You send them pictures. Now, before you know it, your pictures are somewhere else. So what he's talking about is actually real, okay? It's real. It's not fictitious. It's not made up. It doesn't happen to other people. It happens to your friends. They just don't tell you about it. So nobody's here trying to scare you. Wisdom is what's being implanted in this room today, okay? So we want you guys to be wise about your decision making. What they're saying is very true. I listen to these stories every day when I go to work. That's my job, is to listen to the kids that come in that somehow, some way we found out that something was going on with them. And they have to come in and tell their story. I listen to it, and they look like you. They look like you. So please understand, nobody's in here to scare you. So if you have questions, if you believe something is not right, speak up. Say something. I do not want to meet you that way. He doesn't want to meet you that way. She doesn't want to meet your parents in that way. Okay? So if something is happening, please speak up. Please say something. I do not want to meet you in those rooms. We're there for you if you need us, definitely. And it's the way to go, but we don't want to meet you, so please listen to what these people are saying to you. So those are some examples you can give to your 17-year-old. It happens. It happens all the time. And nobody thinks it can happen to them. They think they're smarter than the next person. Oh, I've heard that before. I know. And the next thing you know, they're all in. Somebody sent them a text message saying that, hey, I got those pictures that you sent. That's happened. Somebody sent a DM or a text message, I got those pictures. You know those pictures that you sent your friend. And in their head, they know they sent pictures before. That person doesn't have a picture of you. And if you don't send me another picture, I'm gonna release what I have. So that's another tactic. So then you send another picture thinking they have a picture of you. They don't have a picture of you. You go immediately, you talk to your parents about it. Immediately. Worst case scenario, if they do have that one picture of you, guess what? That's just that one picture. But if you continue on that road, it can be many pictures, including videos, because it's gotten that far where children have sent pictures, and then the next thing you know, the person's asking them for videos of performing arts. Because if you don't, then I'm going to make a Facebook page and I'm going to friend all the people. Google it, look it up. I'm going to friend all of your people that's on your page, and I'm going to make a Facebook page, and including your parents, and add them as my friend, and I'm going to release all the pictures and videos that you've ever given me. If you don't believe me, Google the case. It's happened. And it happens all the time. So that's my little spill. Listening to all you guys, just making sure that you're listening.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. And I know I backed up Miss Graham and Miss Sherry on what they were saying. Thank you for backing me up on what I'm saying. It is, again, this isn't stuff to scare you, it's to educate. But she's 100% correct that it happens every single day right here in this area. It's not something that you just read about on the internet. It happens all the time. Would not be surprised if it's happened to somebody that everybody in this room knows, and they just don't tell you that it happens. But hardly a day comes by that at the sheriff's department something's not coming in where there's a young person who shared photos of themselves and now they're in a situation where they're reporting it to law enforcement. Just really be careful. And then what you said about Facebook profiles or other social media profiles as well. With that and with any other type of scam or fraud, it does happen where fake profiles are created or even someone's legitimate profile is taken over because they fell victim to a scam and as part of the scam gave up the password to their Facebook account or their Instagram account, and now you're getting messaged from someone's real account that you really know and you're getting tricked into doing something because you think that it's someone that you know. So just really be careful. Even with people that you think you know, just really be careful with what they're asking you. If it sounds strange or doesn't sound like them, if people are asking you for money or people are asking you for photos of yourselves or other things that you're not comfortable with, just really be cautious with that. And like I said, I know people who are younger get weird about telling things to their parents, but if you're in a situation where someone is making you uncomfortable or asking you of things that you know you shouldn't be asked of, please tell somebody. I know I had two more questions here in the middle from a while ago. It's just something to be cautious of. So just be careful about what you're sharing and who you're sharing it to. So I don't know if there's necessarily any issue with saying, my kid attends this high school or something, but something that people can use is, I know especially for elementary school where they've got, the chalkboard or whatever, where it's like, it's my first day of school and this is my name and here's my favorite color and here's my mom's name and all. Just kind of be careful about some of the information you're putting out there, especially knowing that with a lot of banks nowadays or other businesses that have you set up security questions, which I personally hate security questions, but it's things like, what's your mother's maiden name, or what street did you grow up on, or what was the name of your first pet or something. Well, when they created those questions, it wasn't quite so public. Social media wasn't quite as big of a thing, but now the answers to a lot of those questions can be found on social media. I know for me personally, my mother's maiden name is in her Facebook profile. That's not a secure question at all. And that's kind of what I'm trying to caution you against, is putting too much information out there that can be used against you. So it's just something to be wary of and to be cautious of when you're doing that. Just knowing how could it be used against you. For me personally, for security questions, if they make me set them up, I create a random password of letters, numbers, and special characters and put that as the answer to all of them. So I never use the street I grew up on. I might use, 30 random letters in a row, and it's not the street I grew up on, and no one's gonna guess it. So just be careful about what you're putting out there, especially, in those types of photos where it's like, here's my first dog, and here's my first car, and here's all this. Just knowing what it can be used for, just kind of be careful about that. But it's not to say don't do it at all, or don't share pictures of your kids on the internet, or bad things will happen. But just be aware of what could happen depending on what information you share. Yeah, and really with any online account, especially one that you have some sort of payment method linked to, a credit or debit card or a bank account, make sure you have a really secure password. Don't have something that's easy to guess, or don't have your cat's name or something. Have something that's actually secure, because you think, well, it's just an account, doesn't matter if people get in, but if you have a debit card saved in there, then people can spend all the money in your account just by getting into one place. And especially with how prevalent online shopping is, like I can only imagine how many different websites have my card number saved. Everywhere you go, they want to ask you at checkout, do you want to save it later for next time? And the safest thing to do is say no. But if it is something that you do agree to, just make sure that account is actually secure with a good, strong password that you're not reusing at every possible account. And then I believe the young lady next to you also had her hand raised. I don't know if that was for your benefit. Yeah, so at gas stations, this has happened here locally. At gas stations and at stores, anywhere where you might be swiping or inserting a credit or debit card, there are skimmers that can be put on top of that. Oftentimes they are at gas stations because it is a lot easier to affix it there where no one's monitoring you than at a checkout that has someone right on the other side of the counter. But it's a little device that'll go right over top of where you would normally swipe or insert your card. And when you do that, it'll capture all of the information on your card. Sometimes they're even sophisticated and have like the PIN pad integrated into it so they can record if you put in a zip code or a PIN number, something like that. I will say that generally a safer method to pay that is now built into a lot of new issued credit and debit cards is using the tap to pay. That's oftentimes a safer method. I'm sure they will create a way to steal your card number doing that too. But for the time being, I am not familiar with any times where a card was tapped and it was stolen. It's usually swiping or inserting the card. So for me, I've actually have cards saved in my watch, and I just tap it everywhere that I go that takes it. I've never had an issue with that. Also, if you add it to an iPhone or Apple Watch, or I'm not sure if it works the same on Android, but the virtual cards that you make on your phone, when you add it, it's not actually your real card number either. It creates a virtual card number. So when I go somewhere and I tap to pay with my phone or my watch, of course not with the actual card, that will be the real card number, but with my phone or my watch, if I tap to pay and look at the receipt, the last four of that card is not my real card. So if that number did get stolen, it's as simple as deactivating the virtual card, and you don't have to go through all the hassle of getting your real card replaced, which I've had people tell me they're not going to do because they have things set up on auto pay and it's too big of a hassle and they'd rather just deal with it. So anything else anybody has? Yeah, so I'm not familiar with any theft like that happening here locally. It's not to say that it can't happen. I know, Columbia is not the biggest city in the world. It is a city, capital of the state and all that, but if you go to some of the bigger cities, there's some more sophisticated techniques people are doing. I'm not familiar with anything like that happening here, but it is something where you just can't be too cautious. If it's something where your card number is captured, if it's a debit card, they're also gonna need that PIN number. So I would say, at an ATM, do what you can to hide your PIN. but I'm not familiar with anything where someone's coming after and then looking at numbers that you touched or anything like that. But for peace of mind, if it makes you feel better to touch all the numbers, you're certainly welcome to do so. It could be something that I'm just not aware of because I haven't seen it. And I do plenty of things that are completely unreasonable, don't need to be done, but it makes me feel better. So, so you're certainly welcome to do that. Okay, yeah, so that's something that I have not heard of happening here in Columbia. Like I said, it's certainly something that could happen. So that is then, some device that's overlaid on top of the pin pad. So same thing with the skimmers, just be very cautious when you're using your card, even if it's at your own ATM or something like that. But they need a combination of the card number and your PIN number to get it. So if there's a skimmer on there, then they're also going to be doing something to get your PIN. Sometimes it's a camera that they install above it. Sometimes there's a full replacement PIN pad that goes on top of it that'll just record the key presses. And apparently there's also some sort of sticky substance that they'll overlay on top of it and then come back and see which numbers you pushed as well. So thank you. Yeah, that's not something that we've seen here locally, but things start in big cities and then come to the smaller ones. So it's possible that trend may spread. So again, just be very cautious using those using ATMs and PIN pads, or even at the gas station, just be very cautious that everything is exactly how it seems. Like gas stations, they've got the sticker over the next to, usually in the area of the screen, that says this, certifying that it hasn't been tampered with, something like that. Just things to look out for, or if the card reader on the gas pump looks, like it's larger than it should be, or if you just want to, again, for peace of mind, you can pull on it a little bit, and if it comes off, that's not good. Does anybody else have anything? Yep, thank you for sharing that. What we've tried to impress upon everyone this morning is that it, like you said back there, it's not something that happens to other people. It's not something that happens other places. It happens here to people just like everybody in this room. It is something that really does happen, and really does happen right here. And it's something where you're talking to someone on the internet that you think is someone who's your friend or your age, that can really take you down a bad path. And it's not to say that that you think that anything bad is going to happen, or that you have any intention of that, but someone else may have intentions for you that end up being beyond your control if you can go along the path that they're setting out for you. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. It really is stuff that happens here every day. I imagine there's plenty of people that you guys go to school with that have had bad interactions with people on the internet, or have ended up having law enforcement interaction from stuff that happened on the internet, and you'd never know because they never tell you, but I see the reports that come in. It is every day. Young people are specifically targeted and affected by things like this all the time. And like I said earlier, the best thing that happened, or the best thing that could happen, is it's just someone who wants your money. But the worst thing that happens is you're taken away from your family and you never see them again, and life only gets worse from there. Does anybody have anything else? All right, I think we're good. I went over my time a little bit. I think we're 35 or 30 minutes past my time. But thank you guys, it's been great. I'll be here for maybe another minute or two. If anybody had something that they didn't want to share in front of the group, you can come up and just ask me.